So this is the book that we had presented for his cousins, and this is part 3. And you really can't see it, but it says, "I am going down to the field, Jim." And below that, I had his driver's license, his junior driver's license. And it was a wonderful thing in Pen Argyl that the kids could just go down to the field. It's a way of life that a lot of people don't have. So in front of me now I have a bunch of family photos that I just want to go through. Some of you will recognize a different Jim, different ages and things. So again, here's the Easter Bunny, and Jimmy said to me, "Dad, there's a man in that costume." This is Jimmy. He's about 2 years old. It might have even been maybe it was his 3rd birthday, I'm not sure. This picture here, he's about 7 or 8, and there's his grandma in the background. So maybe you guys and girls that went to ICS remember that kind of look. And this would be the beginning of when kids get sullen. There's Jimmy, and it's one of his cousins. He's about 10 or 12. This is a good picture of Jim. If you look at this, you can barely see it's our boy there, but he's out and there's the mountain in the background. He's out in the winter, you know. Some people will be sitting inside, but Jim, he worked out all year long, as you can see, including in the snow with his gloves on. And that's one of his aunts. She had come up to visit with us. And this is Jimmy. It's probably the same visit, because I recognize that car on MR2. Here's a picture of Jim and his cousin Scott, and Jimmy's maybe 10 or 11 years old. That's the picture at Hartman's. This is the picture. I kept this in my car for many years, and as he got older, and I'd take him someplace, you know, once he was 20, 22, 24, whatever. He'd look down, and there would be his picture that I always kept right there on the dashboard. This, I think, is a carnation or a rose there, so that makes that probably graduation at ICS. This is Jimmy. If you can see from the rosy cheeks, this would have been one of those winters in Pen Argyl in the mid-90s where we had the tons of snow. And our street was so crowded that Pen Argyl had to come in with the big scoops in order to clear it. The snowplows couldn't clear it. Here's a picture of Jimmy. We're in New York. There's a ball game going on in the background. We were in, actually, for those of you who might have been in the counterculture or whatever, we were in to see a documentary filmed by R. Crumb, the guy who was a writer of Hippy Dippy comics back then. Now, if we can get this picture just right, that's the trade centers. There's Jim. See if I can get it all at once. And we were in, that's probably the same trip in to see the documentary on R. Crumb. Freak Brothers comic books is what he wrote. And I loved to take pictures, of course, of Jim. And I have a bunch of pictures of the trade centers. Same day, he's getting a little tired. He's got on a Giants jacket. If you remember back when you guys all wore Giants jackets, that would have been in the early 90s when the Giants were rocking and rolling, the Phil Simms Giants. Jim with some of his cousins. This makes him about 20, 21. This one is, again, November 2008. And there we are. And he's playing Scrabble. And that's one of his cousins, Andrew, who actually whooped on everybody in the Scrabble game. And I love this, just love all the pictures of Jim. But this is one of my favorites. Here's Jim and his grandmom. Same day, probably. Somehow we're going back in time. This is little bitty Jim. And that's just, that's an MR7 or something. Again, this is Wednesday, October the 5th, 2011, and I'm going to put some pictures that I've got of Jimmy up on Facebook with some help from one of his cousins. See if I can get the right angle on that. That's Jim. That's opening day at Yankee Stadium. I believe it had been 1996. And there he is with his Yankees cap. And that was the red fox that we all loved. And as you know, Jimmy got into the foxes. We got him a blue fox once. It's another opening day. I think we did a couple of opening days in a row. And this one, I know it's opening day because he's got on like winter gear. And, you know, Yankee Stadium can be very cold. There's a good chance that it's Don Mattingly taking a swing. I can't see if we got the, what is that, 23? And can anybody tell me if Don Mattingly was 23? Speaking of Evergreen, as I know that's where there was a memorial for Jim on October 16th, 2010. This is Jim and I at Evergreen. We had just moved out here to the Windy Woods area, and we were fishing in that place. And here's Jim on the farm, and he's feeding the lambs there, or sheep, whatever they are, and there's the horse. I think the horse was Annie, and that was his grandma. But, you know, back then they gave the sheep numbers because they didn't really want the children to get attached to the sheep too much because they ended up eating them, and man, was they good. This is Wednesday, October the 5th, 2011, and I'm looking at pictures of Jim that I'm going to have posted up on Facebook. Here's one most people haven't seen. He was coming back from Philadelphia. He'd been visiting the doctor there, and he stopped by at the Howard Johnson's where I used to work. And for years I had this picture. I have it all blown up and sitting on the wall when I walk in. And he's about 15 years old. And here's another one. This is on the boat. There was another picture of the boat, Barnegat Bay, and I think that's his cousin. I know it's Scott, and I think it's his cousin Dan Malone from Dallas, Texas. And I don't know if you can see this, but they're just having a great time. And this picture is Jim, and I don't know, this looks like a wedding or something. Not sure. But there's his a bunch of his cousins, okay. And he's probably 26 or so in that picture. There's another picture of Jim and his grandma. And he's got on some shirt there, a comic shirt or something. You know, as he got a little older, once in a while he'd look tired. Jim was a hero. Every parent thinks their kids are heroes, of course. Jim had experimental treatment early on in his life. He was one of the first patients to use something called recombinant DNA that really helped his lungs and proved that treatment worked. So, you know, he was willing to do things for others all his life. And here's another picture of Jim when he's hanging in the jacuzzi on that most excellent barbecue day. And it's a bigger picture of him, Thanksgiving 2008. And I just love the look. Anybody that's a South Park fan, the recent Jersey Shore, when Jersey comes to South Park episode, and Kyle Proflosky turns into a Jersey guy, and it's just fascinating that I look at this, and when I see South Park, the Jersey episode, I'm just amazed at the look, and Jimmy had that look, so thank you.